got a little travel trailer in here. I think someone tried to spray all this with Flex Seal. We're going to remove this antenna. We're going to put an automatic one on here, but there's no insert trim here. You can see like someone obviously had some issues, and it looks like they used that Flex Seal or some sort of spray on here, but I'm not familiar with it too much. But you can see over here, it's not sealed right there, so we don't know if that caused any damage in there. We may go take a peek at it, but this will all come out. If you have one of these antennas, this boot just goes down and slides around a collar. You really want to loosen it up, load it, and then pull that back down. You want to see some caulking around this part because water will trickle down here and you get droplets of water. And then eventually those droplets will start rotting stuff out, and then it'll get worse. So that's pretty common. So, but like I said, this is going anyways. And then we had a couple other damaging items over here. Looks like they had an issue here, an issue here. So, but the this is really thin. I'm guessing this is 5mm underneath there. Make sure these are sealed as well. You go around and you're looking. If you were to look to buy one of these, if you were looking at this one to buy, that would be something I'd be concerned about. If you got damage there, insurance will pay for a new roof if you have damage on it. You know, if you get a tree branch that hits it, they'll pay for the roof to be replaced. But I can tell there's no buffer strip on here. You can see that sharp angle, and that's what you want to look for as well. So when you come around, you want to look and see if any of this is right. See if I get my finger, there you go, right in this corner right here, this one. You want to see, because that's the sharpest one, but you want to see if there's any breaching, slits, or anything, because water will get down in there, and when it does, it'll get behind the fiberglass, and when it does, it'll delam. When it delaminates, then you got other problems. So that's what you want to check for. We'll be replacing this insert trim as well with the good stuff that we have. And then we also ordered an awning for it as well. So we got that headed this way. Let's see, go around the other side. This is what we're doing, wrap everything up. That's just the way we do things. I want to protect the coach. So looks like this is just beautiful. It looks like it's just bulbing out. But the same thing going along here. So again, if you're doing that, and then these are usually problematic right in this corner, especially. Water will get down in here, and you can pop these out. This just snaps right out, and there's screws in there, and you can just take out a couple of screws. Again, if you're going to buy one, take out a couple of screws. If the shank of the screw is rusty, you probably got some rot in there. So we're not going to put this back up on here. I don't like this design because what it does, go over here so you can look at it a little better. But when the water travels, it'll hit the roof, and then it can't roll off the roof, so it's going to roll down here. That's where all your trouble comes from. We're going to roll it over the side, and I'll replace it so the termination is down here. That's what we're going to do. So it'll be much better that way. And then you don't have to worry about it kind of sitting here. It'll just roll off onto the side of the coach. So all right. Looks like you got a little bit of something right there. What Dicor wants you to do, they want you to keep putting more on. You know, and I joke and I say the only one's putting more on is a moron, because you shouldn't have to do that. I'm not a fan of Dicor at all. I think Dicor is just a terrible product because it can't last much more than 3 or 4 months. It is marketed to be outside. All the years I've been doing construction and everything and using exterior caulkings, I've never seen one that will only last a few months. So that tells me that what they're doing is exploiting people's ignorance to roof systems. So what they'll do is they'll tell you to keep putting more on, and you put some more on, you put some more on, keep putting more on. Now, you wouldn't buy tires you'd have to fill up every 3-4 months, would you? Of course not. So there's better products out there, and ironically, this is Dicor is made by Carlisle Syntec, which is a commercial company, and they actually make their own sealants that are designed to stay much better than 3 or 4 months, right? So, all right, well, when we get more going, I'll show you what we're up against and then how it is. But I'm really, I can hear that, and when I press on it on the deck here, that really sounds like it's only 5mm. I'll bet it's 5mm Luan. That's my guess. We'll see. We get some of the screws out of the. I call this a termination bar. It's an awning gutter rail. Well, in this case, it's just a gutter because there's no awning slot in there. Look at the screws. Here's the rest of them. That tells you that water was getting in there. That's what it'll do. It'll get into this type of insert trim. All it does is just snap in. It just goes in that way. And then when it does, it just snaps back up inside. But water can still get in there. So the worst part is like this corner. So you got water on this corner when it's raining. It's going to pool up in here. And until it gets high enough or there's enough pressure, then it'll push it over. But what it will do is it'll get inside that one. You see, when it gets inside there, then it'll roll right down this. You see, 'cause that's all this is. See if I can get this out here. Come on. See how it can get up underneath there like that? Then the water can travel. And if it gets in that track, like I'm saying, there's a screw up inside here. That's why it won't just pop loose that easy. Here's a good old fishing knife. There we go. So then the water goes down here. And that's what we'll check. We're going to replace all this anyways. But it can run in this track and it can hit these screws. And it can potentially rust out the screws. And if water just starts hitting on there and getting in there enough, then it could rot out that corner wall. You know, there's a piece of wood frame behind there. So that's what we're doing now, is just trying to figure out the best way. But this is 5mm. That's what we already, just 5mm Luan. There. And it's real thin. That's it right there. Maybe we can cut this piece right here so I can show. I think it's just like a corner or something. So I can get a. Yeah, that's that. Maybe. Let me show how thick it is. Hey, there you go. That's it. That's just 5mm. That's all it is. All the money you spend, and they don't want to just slap her together. That's why they did the duct assembly on there. That's terrible. Get them big gaping holes. Something else for us to fix. But anyhow, that's what we're doing now. We're going to take this off of here, and we're just trying to. When you start putting things back together, people say, "Oh, all you have to do is just redeck it." Well, you can, but now when you redeck it, your elevation's going to change. So, going on that thought, we build this up. Sorry, Dad. Is that my tape?
Yes.
Here's the original molding, and if you look where the line was, where the bottom of this was, right here, right there, it's barely biting on there. It's barely biting on there. So if we elevate this a little bit more, you know you're going to be up a little bit, right? Or something like that. So now I got to figure, if we do it that way, I got to figure a way to make it look presentable. What I have done before is put a piece of aluminum coming across that's black. And I fabricate a piece up, and then I kind of put it together that way, so at least we get the coverage up underneath the term bar here, this corner mold, you know, on that leg, so we can seal it. That's all this is just cheap. So those are some of the things you have to, you know, kind of look at. You can't just go, hey, I'm just going to throw a 1/2 inch on there or whatever you want. You just can't do all that, because it'll change, you know, different aspects of the coach. And now you have another problem over here to deal with. We go down there, we got another problem down there to deal with. So, you know, those things take some time. And if you don't do these and address them properly, these things, well, now you got leaks. Well, then what good was all that work? You'll rot out everything else. So that's what we're working on. But this is, you can see this is the membrane they have right here. Look how this is very thin. So I didn't even take that out. That's the way that is right there. So this is what we use. This is a 60 mil commercial grade. This is a structured membrane. That's what we use. That's what we're putting on. So I'll put it right here so you can see it is a lot thicker than this is. Matter of fact, this is about even the base of this sheet is thicker than that. So you have that much on there. Even right there, that right there is still not to the top. This is probably close to 3 times as thick as this. Yep, that's about it right there. About 3 times as thick as this product here. So I'm afraid I'd show you that. Well, we're gonna rip all this apart, and we're gonna get to this. As we're peeling this up, I'm looking at the membrane. There's not very much glue on there. Very, very, very little. And look at that there. It should pull right up already. There's not hardly any glue in this thing. They also put the screws in here, which, okay, they got screws in there, but it's not smart to put screws in the truss assembly on these because you're going to end up splitting them. They're real thin. So I don't know if they're split. We're just trying to figure out the best avenue to go with this thing. But I just noticed that as he was pulling that sheet, I was like, well, that looks awful shiny. Like there's no real adhesive on there. Not enough. And all the sheets are about the same. You can see a little bit on this one. But like right here, there's no glue. And you can see glue there. But right here, there isn't. Right here, there isn't. Right there isn't. So, alright. Bulletproof coming up. I'm going to get rid of all this. This 5mm, that's just a filler in there. That's a filler. You got your ply, and you got a ply on the bottom and then the center, but it has no strength. We walked on it, and I'll tell you what, this thing is flimsy. So obviously they screwed them all down because they got the aluminum trusses in there, which is a pretty good idea, I guess. But it's still not all that heavy. You can see right here, I mean, I'm just barely pushing on it. And I like to brag that I'm a strong guy and all, but gee whiz, I mean, this thing's that loose. You can actually see right here, that piece is already compromised. So we're going to find out what caused that and try to fix it. But nonetheless, he wanted a couple extra power vents in here, so we're going to take all this up and so we can run wires for that power vent. So that was an easy deal there. And then while we're there, we'll try and check out everything else underneath here, all the wires like we normally look for. Alright, so now we got this is pretty new. Can't remember what year it is. This is pretty new. We already had water running down up inside here, so we put the fan on here to blow it all and dry it out. Oh wow. Look at that. Matted wet insulation. Hey, stop what you're doing over there. Get this insulation out of here. You gotta get that out. And then we're gonna dry everything out. But I'm hoping it didn't ruin the ceiling or the wall ceiling, whatever you want to call it, going down there, the radius. So I think we're good with that. We just want to get the wetness out. Right on the set. Okay, so we're going to take the corner molds all the way off now because further investigation is saying that there's some dampness in there. Where did you see that crack before we take this thing off? On the brown?
Right next to the...
Right there. We hadn't done anything yet.
Like a staple under it or something.
Yeah, it does look like there's a staple. We should get that fixed. So, there's more moisture or something in there, they're saying. So, let's see if we can see something in here. I don't know why that's... I don't know what that is, but you can see the paper wrinkle right there. Looks like somebody cut that. They did. They cut that out. And what they did was to accommodate a bigger bed. That's what it's for. You can see it right there. But I don't like all that paper wrinkle. I want to see what's causing all that. Okay. Otherwise, I can't see anything except for right down there. We're going to check it out. This is the driver's side, outside. You can see we got some D-lam on this. That was the wrinkles we were seeing, which is the same on the opposite side, on the passenger side. But it was, yeah, that's still wet. You can see when it stays all wadded up like that, that's how you know it's wet. That, and I don't know if you can see it on my fingers, but it's wet. So we got to open this up, and then we got to see. That might be adhesive, but we'll check it out. You know, we'll make sure it's all set before we put it back on. But this, you see, this wasn't glued on here. This is just lays on here. That's the way they do it. Just lay it on there. So we want to get this off. Don't want that insulation out, so we can get dry. That's crazy. Ooh-wee. You know, this come in, this is a good example. You watch these videos, if your coach is in here or coming in here, folks come in, and they expected, this was just a roof. So then he wanted some extra vents put in. Well, now this decking is bad, so it's got to go. So there's one extra workforce, and obviously this here, it throws our calendar off. So, and we haven't had a coach in here in a long time that just needed a roof tore off and replaced. I can't remember the last one. So it's been a while. So just keep that in mind if you're headed this way. We want your business. We'd love to get you fixed up. You've got to be patient, understand we're a specialty shop, and we want to make sure everything is right before it rolls out, because we don't address these issues right now, like even this in here or whatever else we got going on, the system isn't going to last right. You're going to have other issues come up because something wasn't done correctly, and we just don't work that way here. So if you can't wait on your coach and you don't think so, then you may want to go to another place that can do the get you in, get you out type thing. We're not known for that. We're known for quality work, long-lasting workmanship and products, but we're not known to be the quickest shop. Let's get going with this thing and get it opened up. So now we got the piece, it's right there. We took that off, and this is really wet. It's very wet. So we're gonna just take all of this. So you see how this is blown right here. If this was wet, then this whole other piece would be gone, but it's still wet behind here. All that's still, you can see the wetness there. So we're gonna get rid of all this insulation. We're gonna get some blowers on here. We're gonna let it dry out. We're gonna mold kill it, do all that. The back side of this has what's called Asdel on it. It's a composite board that they've been using, but they don't put anything on this. They just laid it on here. It's not secured, fastened in any way, shape, or form. It's just laid on there. That's it. So you can see how, man, that just looks sloppy and terrible. So hopefully we won't have too much rotted wood in there. If we can dry this, get some mold kill on it, we could probably stave this situation. But what I don't like about the batten is there's no strength in it now for behind the other piece. That piece is just sitting there. And at times they'll kind of warp, but there's nothing underneath them to give them some strength. Batten insulation is too puffy. So I may look at another avenue of trying to strengthen that up without having to use the insulation if possible. All right, that's what we got so far. You can see all this. That is still soaked. You can see the sheen. See the sheen there? That is still wet. So yeah, it needs to be mold kill. We're going to clean all that up. Yep. So if you get water coming down too much, see the way this is shaped, all that water is going to roll in that direction, and it could possibly get down inside, and that's the floor. I'm going to route the floor out. Then you have bigger problems. So you got this little skin of just what is that, 5 mil on there to the edge to build out on that side. That's all that was for, to meet up with this other side of this siding. And then you got some here. Not sure why this one is. Yep, that one's going to be in there. There's a bulging weld or something there. So we'll take a better look at it and get a light in here afterwards. All right, we are getting this thing glued down. So one of the things I didn't like is the way the trusses were. They had that cheap metal going across there. The problem with the metal is it wasn't strong enough to hold these true, to hold the trusses true. It's just not strong enough because it was so flimsy. Now if you were running on an angle and you're trying to prevent racking, like horizontally going this way, that metal would probably work. But you'd also have to put it on the next fashion. But on here, you can't get it because these would still walk, and that's what happened. And that's what we noticed. So I put 16 gauge all the way down in the center. That holds that just fine. What I do with the older stuff, or the other stuff, shall I say, is the other concern that we ran across on the coach before we even started. If you remember from the video, we had a crease right here from the old roofing. Well, that's because this is just over 8 foot wide. It's like the span is like 96 and 5/8 or something, just a little bit. So that's about 3/8. So we split the difference. So what I do with the old stuff is, see how I get that back there. I ripped them all down. Yeah, I'll show you here. What we're going to do is this, see? Now we got a nice shoulder, and we're going to protect that edge so the roofing comes around real nice. That's what we're going to do on it. And then we'll have our protector strips on here anyways, but that's what we're going to do. And then I made enough for one side with this, and then I had to pull some out of stock that I had and make some more. So we got that. We glued and screwed all this down. And then some of these screws, like actually this stuff is so thin, this aluminum is so thin, these screws do not want to bite. And these are designed for what we use in commercial work. But they don't want to bite. So the older ones they had are kind of coarse. So we're just going back with them since we took them out. And then, believe it or not, the staples will pull. The staples will staple this down. And to prove that point, because the guys were kind of wondering, I did this demo right over here, right there. You can see that little disc that I stapled that down, and we can't pull it up. But we're still going to put screws in as good measure, but it just helps get the decking down as quick as you can, and it's got additional fasteners in it, so when the staples hit, they kind of fork off, and they twist after they hit the metal, they kind of deflect, which keeps it tight. But when we ran it, this sheet actually, because it's flat, and this has some camber, the sheet actually went boom, 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 come down like that. So we'll put this on the edge. A couple other things we saw were, which we're going to get something right here. See how they did this? You have that metal right in there on this wire, which I don't like. They don't have any protection. This is a piece of plastic one for a ferrule, but this one is metal. It's got nothing in it. And I don't like that. I just don't think that's a smart thing to do. So we're going to put a piece in there. Don't have nothing here. And we're going to fix it right here. Someone's got a little zealous with the glue, but we're going to put it right here because like there's probably a little bit of chafing on that side. A lot of them have. This is a pretty new coach, so maybe it hasn't traveled enough to get wore on, I guess. But anyhow, that's what we're going to do is put those in there. And I did them over here already. Let me show you over here. See, I got them in here. Those are the redhead bushings we put in. I just took those two plates out. Those are typical plates you can buy, protective plates. They got little barbs on them, but I needed two, so I just cut up a piece of steel and put it in there. It spans the whole thing. It was just easier to do it for me. And I'll probably end up doing the same thing over there since I got to take them out. So that's what we're working on. We're going to put those in there. We see another one around here somewhere. I just noticed it. We got one right in there. There it is. So you want to have some protection on there. Like I said, sometimes it'll start to compromise the edge of it, you know. I don't know if you can see that or not, but I sure can't. I'm just trying to get the camera around there. But anyhow, sometimes they'll do that. They'll kind of compromise it. And the last thing I want is someone going down the road and they got no electricity and they go, hey, what happened? And that's what it was. So that's kind of the advantage to opening these roofs up to see what's going on underneath. We also checked all the trunk lines for the air conditioner. We do that on all of them. Check them because it's open, so you might as well see what's going on with it. So now we're going to get the decking down, get these couple of things fixed, get this piece set, get that one down there finished up. We've got a couple of swabbings of mold kill on here, so we're going to clean this up, and then we're going to we have to get all new insulation. It was all bad, so we're putting all new insulation in there, and then we're probably going to take this piece off here because it's already rotted off of here. See, that's how bad it is. So we're going to get rid of that. So, you know, on this one, they got it welded here and here, which is good. So, I mean, it's a plus. They don't have any here, which, I mean, you could have come right around with it, but they didn't. But you have to have it at least on both sides, you know, so it doesn't want to wiggle. We had a problem with a Montana that we were working on, and they put a structural piece in there, and they only did one side, and it sagged and dropped the floor, and then the slide out had trouble going in and out. That's on the Montana. You can go watch it, and you can see what we were talking about on there. So we just checked. Not that I could re-weld it, but I could, because I don't want to put a welder to something like this. It'd be too hot for it, and I just wouldn't want to risk burning anything else. So what we would do is stitch it back in if we had to. But these look like they're welded back in. When I say stitch it, I mean I can use sheet metal, and I can make all sorts of bracketing systems for it. It's just, and then we glue and screw them together. And they're going to be stronger than this anyways, because this is really cheap alloy. So, all right, let us get to it.
So we got it decked. I was explaining about how the staples, how they worked, but also, see, here's the edge. And when they built this thing, I mean, they had a little bite of screws on here. What we did, we put blocker behind it. I don't know if that caught on the camera, but we put blocker behind it. That's why these are fastened up here. And then we secured the blocks in there and glued them in so we'd have more bite for the sheathing, because it really needs to be tight. So what we'll do afterwards, we got some strips that'll go on here, and then anything else that looks kind of iffy and deep, then we just usually patch them in just so it looks nice and clean. But let's see. Yeah, you can't see it. Now this side will come up. You see we got the red head, so move the antenna over there. It was over here, but we're going to be putting on an automatic antenna, so we'll leave that. Other than that, it's almost ready for roof right now. So it's pretty daggone close. We just got to get these shoulder pieces on that I was explaining yesterday, which are right there. We repurposed the ones on that side, then I had to make new ones for this side. So that should get us. And so we're pushing. This is the back wall right here. Okay. Keystone is bragging about using their Azdel, I think they call it. It's a composite backer. And they'll say, yeah, we use Azdel. That's on there. It'll never rot. It'll never do this. This is the back wall. The front wall is the same way. However, the sides are all Luan. They're all Luan. So, you know, if your salesperson is telling you, hey, it's got Azdel, you never have to worry about it. It's not throughout the whole thing. It's just the front and the rear because they just slapped these on. These are not bonded. The front is not bonded. The rear is not bonded. What's holding in the rear panel here are these lights, window, corner mold. Take all that off like we did the front, it'll fall right off. So it's not glued. So, you know, it kind of takes away from the racking of the coach. I don't like to see it that way, but I'm not going to tear the whole thing apart for the sake of that. But that's what they do. So they say, hey, it won't rot. Well, that's a plus, but you know, you're still gonna, if you had water getting down in here, it's still gonna leak if it wasn't done right. So, all right, well, that's the Azdel story. All right, so we've got all our protective strips on here. We've already got this other side, it's already completed, but you can see all the glue that we have on here now. Roll it over. We also have those metal band strips that I was telling you about underneath there. Put one on the back to protect all this, and these will roll over. Everything's going to come together beautifully. Beautifully. So now all we're going to do is roll this out. So that's our balance roller. Once we roll it out with that, then we take the big heavy roller and then roll it down. There's a bigger roller. That's a heavy one. We just want to make sure it gets a good bond. That's why we roll it out. Wow, that's getting blurry. I wonder if the lens is... Alright, so what we're doing now, we mold killed this thing out 3 times, so it's good. It's pretty solid. I don't see any rot on it or anything like that. So now, instead of putting in the batten insulation, I didn't like that. I want to get a little rigidity out of the front, mainly because I don't like the way these were put together. You see, it's not really, it doesn't seem to have enough strength for me. So in the front of these things take a real beating from the weather and the wind as you're traveling. So what this is going to do is strengthen it up, because we're going to glue it all together. That's what we're doing now. You can see all the glue we got up in there. So we're loading it all up. So we're going to do the same thing down here. They also had some wood that was 1/4 inch that they built out almost flush here. But the problem that we found is that now when we put the front piece on, the corner mold is barely covering this side on this here. So we're not going to put that piece back on. We're just, the piece meaning those strips that they had, we're not putting those on. We're just going to put and glue the front fascia piece, which is sitting right there. Look at that blurring out like that. Right there. So we're going to put that back on. And we're going to put that back on there and glue it, but we're going to wait for this to set up so it'll have something nice and tight. I'll obviously glue it right back to the frame. I want to get that looking better. And I want it to be tighter and stronger. So that's what we're doing right now. And then we've got the welding going on up there. We're welding all that back together. And we're cleaning term bar right now, so we're trying to pull this thing together. Just we have got our bullet all insulated up. So now what we're doing is prepping the actual exterior piece. We're going to put it on here in a second. We got it on. We glued it on there. So it's going to be a lot stronger now. That's going to be a lot stronger. Yep, it looks real good. So this lower piece that you're looking here, that's a diamond plate that wraps up on top of it. You'll see that when we're done. We've got most of our bullet put back together. This piece went real well. It's nice and firm underneath there, which is what I like.
Then we've got all the insert trim. This gutter is off. We got to put a new awning on here, so we're going to leave this gutter spout off, and we still got to put the corner molds on. So we got those being painted. Get this front turn bar on. You can see, you know, we've got it all sealed underneath. And then also, I like to see this. That tells me those are sealed. That's the caulking, and it leaves a grommet. That's what we do. You can see the other one burping up right there. So we got to get another screw in here. But so far it's all sealed, and everything's got to be primed. So this is all the primer overhang. So we're going to trim that back a little bit. It just leaves that jaundiced look, but we're not going to have that much caulking out to here, and especially out to here. So, or even over there. Some is a little wider. So we're going to get that cleaned up. You know, like you said, we'll caulk all that. We've got all the insert trim in. This insert trim, it actually sits in the track, and it sits over the track, so it locks everything out compared to the other that just fits in that track. There's another one, just that typical one they use, just fits in there, and then water can get in that track, and that's the important part. That's especially why you want these sealed. You don't want water finding its way through there and dripping down into the coach, you know, because it'll be a chronic leak, and that may have propagated some of the damage that we had already in the front here, all that wet insulation, that, and, you know, poor caulking and all that. So otherwise we got everything else on, and then we get the AC going on, and everything else is all welded. And that's what we're over here. What we're doing is putting down the antenna. So it's going to be a Winegard automatic. So we're getting those boots in, and so we'll do another overview afterwards, or a final, I guess, once we're done with it. Back to our bullet. Look at here. We took the fridge out. The reason we took the fridge out, look at all that. Look at that. That is a mess. That was from that leak we were telling you about. So I can't let that roll down the road like that. That is disgusting. Look at that. That's a ply. So actually, this is a good example of plywood. That's a ply. And you can see the way the grain's going this way. And then turn the page. Here's a ply going this way. And that's what they call plywood. You can see the other one up underneath. It's going in the opposite direction. And that's how they do them. They alternate them. So once they do that, that's where they get the strength. But anyhow, there's all mold and everything in here, and there's mold up underneath on the underside of this. That is just absolutely disgusting. We're taking it out. We're going to mold kill everything, and then there's a fridge right there, and we'll put it back in. But I can't let that thing roll out of here like that. I mean, it's just, and also forget about the fact that we got mold in there. Structurally, it's not sound. The thing's going to collapse. So we're going to get that fixed up, and then we'll get the fridge back in there. One of the things you want to look for in these slide outs, you want to see if this tape is compromised in the corner, and then also the corner on the inside. You want to check all that. If it looks compromised, you're going to end up having some issues where water will get in there. So that's what we checked, and it seems to be pretty tight. We checked both sides. Want to check obviously that end, check the inside, make sure they're sealed, make sure they're tight, make sure you have, you know, this all caulked well. And we're going to clean all this up, of course, but then right now what we got on here, that's our first strike. So we're going to go back and hit that a lick again, so you have 2 layers on there. The reason we put 2 layers on there is if you've ever run a caulking gun, you'll hear it pop and crackle. And you basically just injected an air bubble in there. So when the coaches go down the road and they're racking, flexing, twisting, I want to make sure that an air bubble doesn't surface. So if you put 2 strikes on there, what are the chances of one air bubble hitting over another? Probably slim to none. So that's why we do that. Otherwise, the thing is done. As you can see, I'm not really quite done with it because I haven't got my logo, and I got to go hand cut that. And that's what I'm working on. Quiet on the set. We've got our bullet. We'll pull it out of the bay because we had to do some work in that bay. So we didn't need to hogging up some room. There's our logo. RVRoof.pro. Not .com, but .pro. Nice tan roof. We sealed everything on this coach. Like, we went around the windows, we went around like the entire coach on this one. So you can see we've got our curbs right there that are all heat welded in. Everything's all heat welded. Got the one over on the refrigerator on the other side. Got 2 strikes of caulking going down on the top here. You need to have 2 strikes on there. Put down 1 strike, you'll hear maybe a pop or a crackle. And then that means you just injected an air bubble. So what are the chances of 1 air bubble landing on another if you put another strike on it? Probably slim to none.
You see, we make these stands up. It just gives some balance to the air conditioner. We got the plumbing over here. The plumbing, if you pop that cap off, it's all sealed as well. So if it did happen to pop off from a branch and any water did get in there, it's just going into the holding tank. And you can see how much penetration we got on that weld right there. You can see the discoloration in a way, that gloss. That's all heat welding right there. And this is how we do this. Is a Winegard automatic antenna. This is the way we do these here. So in the event that this fails, you take that nut right there and that one there, and there's one around the other side. Take the coax off, it pops up, run in the store, put another one on it, and you're back in business. The other kind that they have, you have to dig out all the caulking and everything, and well, that's so much easier. That's for sure, that's a lot easier. It's an automatic. That one there, when you fire up your TV, from what I understand, it will automatically load your channels. You just use your remote, scale up and down, select what you want. Then the other thing we did do is we put a new awning on the other side. A nice tan awning on there to match the roof system. And that's it. So, I mean, we're done. So what I got in my hand here, this is a sample or demo, if you will, a prop to show you the insert trim. This one in here in the center that's slopping around all over the place, this one is what they normally use. And then water could get down on this track. When it does, it'll roll down the track. It'll stay in there, and it could roll down the end. It could get into the wall. It could get into some of these screws. So, and depending on where it's positioned too, you have corner mold the same way, so water will run down the track. So what we use, there's two different ones. This is a obviously white, and then what's on this coach is obviously black. So you can see that this has a nice groove in it, so it sits in the track and over the track. That's why I like this. And it has this little bulb design, so I know it's going to stay in there really tight. So I like that. Then you don't want to get any, you want to try and keep out as much moisture water as you can on an RV. So this is the same exact thing. Now the white, you can buy that all day long from what I guess, I mean we do. But it's DX946-1W. That's what that is. And this here you cannot buy anywhere. So you cannot buy it. You buy something similar, it'll be flat, but it's not going to be like this. I had to special order this. I've had to have a special order 2 miles of it. So if you had to buy all of those rolls to get it black. They'll make any color you want if you're willing to pay for it, but it's just such a better product. I would hate, up front, yeah, that costs us, but by the time you do the whole coach, I mean, it's not like it adds like $100 to the coach or something extra just for that insert trim. And I would hate to see a coach have an issue because we were too cheap to put in a much better insert trim. These are expensive enough to do. I'll admit that they are, but there's a lot of work to it. But regardless, you still don't want to have a failure just because you just couldn't afford a couple of bucks extra for a good insert trim. So this is our bullet. Like I said, she's done. She's ready to go. We got that wall all straightened away. I think I showed you all that. It come out pretty well. I'll probably have to get down and show you, but it came out pretty well. Camera up and around this way. But like I said, I thought I had already showed you all that. But anyhow, that's us. We appreciate you watching. And these are not DIY videos. They're not tutorials by no means. There's a lot of stuff we do behind the scenes I could not possibly video. And if you don't do things right, it's going to fail. I have some folks that, some guys that send me some, comments or questions on YouTube, and I have some that, even email me. And some of the questions they ask me, they say they've done this before, and they'll ask me a question like that's, to me, I look at it and I go, if you don't know how to do that, you really shouldn't be doing the roof. But, if you feel like you want to tackle it, have at it. But like I said, don't go solely by this video. There's a lot that we do under, like you said, behind the scenes. And we appreciate you watching. We do generally put the videos together for the customers, so the customer can see all the work we did on their coach, because a lot of times they're asking us, what did you find? What did you find? What did you find? So now we go, hey, just go watch the video. You see what we found. Well, we do appreciate you watching nonetheless. Thank you. All right, one of the things I forgot to go over on that video
This is a 60 mil commercial roof membrane. That's what this is. This is the same exact product you're going to find on a hospital, on a restaurant, an office building. It is the same exact product. It comes in 10-foot rolls. So this is what's called a structured membrane. So a structured membrane, you can see all the little squares in there. See if I can hold this so you can get an idea of all the little squares in there. That's a screen. It's a mesh. And actually you can see on the edge right there, see that little whisker? That's part of the mesh. That's what gives it its strength against like hail and tree branches and things like that. So we'll say this thing, fails, or you get a tree branch, I say. That's what I mean by failure. If you do, you can hub patch over this. You can't do that with EPDM rubber. You just have to tape all that stuff. This is a much better product than EPDM rubber. So if you want to know how bad EPDM rubber shrinks, look at all the little gaskets around your window on your RV. That's EPDM rubber. So when you put EPDM rubber down and it shrinks, it's like stretching a rubber band up over the edge of the coach. So, but anyhow, that's give you an idea. Now this particular sample is a GAF sample, but what's on that roof is Carlisle. I just had some leftover GAF. I figured I'd show you though, but they're basically the same animal. The difference in the two is the actual TPO chemistry, the thermoplastic, the olefin is what it is. Those weld differently from one manufacturer to another, so don't think you could ever just get one and say, hey, I got a roll of this and I got a roll of that they'll weld together. They won't. But you may think they will, but they won't, and they'll break. So, thanks for watching.